Are you an international student planning to come to the US for your higher education? Let me tell you something that not many people talk about, that is getting your first accommodation. Yes, I completely understand that getting an offer letter is quite exciting because you worked so hard, whether it's on your resume, LOR and SOPs, but believe me, that's only step one. The real struggle starts with finding a safe, reliable and affordable accommodation, all while staying in your home country, which is miles away from the US. So in this video, let's look at what are some of the accommodation options you can look for and what are the things that you need to be aware of. So without wasting any time, let's get into it. Hello everyone, this is Piyush. Welcome back to my channel. Accommodation is one of the most important factors of your journey in the US. It might make or break your perspective of studying abroad or studying in some third country. So it's really important to put some time and thought into it to make sure that you find the right one, find the right roommates and enjoy your time in the US. I have been through a lot of pain and struggle when it comes to finding accommodation in the US, but you don't have to because there's a platform named Amber Student which is exclusively made for international students like us. Find a safe, verified and affordable accommodations in the US. They have hundreds of verified listings on their platform and they state everything about the apartment, whether it's the lease terms, the safety, proximity to the campus and also the virtual video tours. So if you want to avoid the hassle of talking to a Facebook stranger and avoid all the hassle and the effort, check out the link in the description box. Set out your preferences, whether it's the budget, area and the location, and someone from the Amber team should reach out to you to help you one-on-one and with the next steps in the process. I graduated from Purdue with a master's in civil engineering. I still remember that getting an offer from Purdue was like a dream come true. I was so happy that I could get into one of the top universities for engineering in the US, but I was also completely alone. Like I didn't have any connections in the US, no relatives, no friends and nothing of that sort. I was a bit behind because I didn't reach out to many people in the US. I was trying to figure it out all by myself. And honestly, I didn't have any idea on how to find accommodations. It was just like going with the flow and seeing what happens. For me, my accommodation search started like many other people, that is through Facebook. I tried to go to Facebook, tried to search Purdue housing to see if there are any Purdue housing groups or if there are any posts that mention about accommodations at Purdue. And to be really honest, it was quite chaotic and quite overwhelming because it was really difficult to figure out who is actually genuine and who is a scammer who is planning to run away with your money. And the worst part is that it's not a small amount. You have to pay a deposit of like $1,000, sometimes $1,500, which is a lot if you compare to your currency of your home country. So it's really important to find genuine people. If it's a post that is made by some people in your home country, it's easier to gain trust, but again, it's Facebook, so there are a lot of fake profiles, a lot of people trying to scam you. So it's really important to be alert and active to make sure that you find the right person and find the right accommodation. I always had questions like, what if they take away my money and just ghost me? What if the apartment doesn't even exist and it's just a fake listing to scam you for your money? And what if it's not a safe neighborhood? All these questions kept me up at night, but again, I didn't have any option rather than just trusting some strangers or messaging them, double checking everything, doing my own research and so on. After going through hundreds of Facebook posts and messaging a lot of strangers, I was fortunate enough to meet a person who was from the same state that I belong to, so it was easier for me to trust him. I got on a call with him to ask his preferences, what are his priorities, how is he finding accommodations and so on. So this is how I found my first roommate in the US. Our thinkings kind of matched, so we thought of finding an accommodation together, but that's just the first part of the problem. The main problem is obviously finding a place to stay in. So we started researching a lot of websites, going through Google, going through apartment websites, asking our seniors if they know any housing options at Purdue. So again, that was the second problem, and again it was overwhelming because there were a lot of apartments, so we don't know what's the correct budget and what's the right location, what's a safe neighborhood and so on. After weeks and months of struggle finding an accommodation, we finally managed to find the right accommodation, at least for the first semester. We thought that we would go there in person and look for other opportunities as well, which would be closer to campus, but this is how our accommodation search was. To be honest, looking back, it was just like a hit and miss, and we just prayed that the accommodation should be fine and should be closer to campus, but unfortunately it was pretty far from the campus. We had to take the bus and it was not walkable. And even if it's not a hit and miss, it would take a lot of time, effort and research on your part to make sure you find the right accommodation which is safe, reliable, as well as closer to the campus. Let me give you a breakdown of some important factors that you need to consider when finding an accommodation. The first is guarantor and credit history. So most of the landlords in the US require you to have a US based guarantor. The problem with this is that even if you have a lot of cash savings in India, you can't use a guarantor that is based in India or your home country. It needs to be someone in the US. Fortunately, the roommate that I found through Facebook, he had an elder brother who was working in the US since years, so we could use him as a guarantor. But if you don't have someone in the US who can be your guarantor, it's really difficult because either your application might get rejected or you might need to pay huge deposits in order to secure the apartment. I know it's really frustrating, especially if you don't know anyone in the US, you don't know who to put as your guarantor, and paying the higher deposits is a pain considering that you have already spent a lot of money on your visa, flight and tuition. Second is location. It's really important to find an accommodation that is as close to the campus as possible. First is because it helps you build your routine and you don't spend most of the time just commuting to the university. Second is usually if you stay closer to the campus, the area are pretty safe because there are a lot of students and there are safety people or police forces that make sure that the university campus stays safe. And third is that you can also attend a lot of events. Let's say you stay closer to the campus, you can just walk to the campus, attend a bunch of events, networking events and any other parties and so on. But if you stay away from the campus, I know it's really difficult. You are not motivated enough to take that bus or take that train and go to the campus. So this is a really important factor. As a student, you want to network or meet as many people as possible. So always try to find an accommodation that is closer to the campus or at least walkable. Third is hidden costs. You might see an apartment that is listed for $400 per month and you are happy that it's in your budget. But remember that most of the student housing in the US are unfurnished. What that means is that you just get a plain room without any furniture. You have to get all your bed, mattress, desk, chair and so on by yourself. So that is another cash outflow that you have to pay out of your pocket. So make sure you consider that in your cost. The second thing is that there are various utility bills that you have to pay on top of the rent, whether it's electricity, Wi-Fi, gas, water and so on. Make sure you check with the landlord that if they include the utilities in your rent or you have to pay it separately. And some landlords also require you to have a renter's insurance which you have to pay out of your pocket. So these are some factors that you have to check and make sure you check it with the landlord so that you don't face surprises when you come to the US. Fourth is finding the right roommate. To be honest, in these times it's comparatively easier to find a life partner than finding a good roommate. I was really fortunate enough to find a really good roommate whom I can share the accommodation with, but I have heard it from many people that they found some bad roommates, and it's mostly because of some of the lifestyle habits, loud music, partying, cooking habits and so on. And there are some landlords or some apartments which match you with some random roommates, and you don't want to share a room with someone or share an apartment with someone that where your thinking doesn't match or there are some habits that have some clashes. Fifth is lease terms. Most of the lease in the US are for 12 months, even if your semester is for 9 months. In this case, it's really important to check the subleasing policies with the landlord. Subleasing is basically, let's say you go for an internship. Instead of paying the month, even if you're not staying in that apartment, you can sublease your apartment to some other student or some other working professional so that you don't have to pay double rent in your internship location as well as your university accommodation. And breaking a lease early might result in some penalties, so it's really important before signing a lease that you read all the terms carefully. If you have any doubts, you can contact the landlord to see if they can change the lease or they have some policies in place for, let's say, subleasing, to make sure that you don't pay any additional penalties. Sixth is different housing types. So first type of housing is on-campus housing. This option is mostly available for people pursuing their bachelor's in the US, and these accommodation types are usually, let's say, dorms, hostels and so on. At Purdue, at least I know that if you are pursuing your master's, you can't stay on campus. You have to go with the second option, that is off campus. So off campus doesn't necessarily mean that you stay very far from the campus. It just means that it's not owned by the university and it's managed by, let's say, by some private management company. You can still find good apartments that are closer to the campus which come under off-campus housing, and off-campus housing usually consists of studio, apartments, individual townhouses and so on. Seventh is scams are real. There are many scammers in the US because they know that people coming in the US, especially the international students, they have the money. So they will try to scam you in each way possible. They might post on Facebook and sometimes sound genuine, but you have to make sure that you are alert and beware of what is genuine and what is a scam. There are many cases of students who have lost their money and the scammer has just ghosted them. They have lost a huge amount of money and they don't have any accommodation to stay. So I would recommend you to always demand video tours, and if an apartment seems too good to be true, it might really be too good to be true. So don't fall into such scams. If you find an apartment that is listed at a really low rent, you have to be extra cautious because that might be a potential scam. Finding an accommodation is not just paperwork, it's about feeling comfortable, safe, and settled because you are far away from your family and you want to stay in a place which you can call home, spend time with yourself and also with your friends from your university so that you can focus on the things that really matter, that is your studies, finding a job, as well as enjoying the campus life in the US. If you are planning to come to the US for your education, make sure you start proactively looking for accommodations and don't wait till the end moment. Please share this video with as many people as possible because I have personally been through the pain and struggle of finding an accommodation in the US, and I don't want anyone to go through the pain. And it's also important that everyone knows all the factors to consider when finding an accommodation. Please feel free to comment down if you have any queries for me. I will try to answer it in the best way possible. Like and subscribe my channel if you find my content useful. Thank you again for watching this video. Until next time.